Good evening, Superintendent Lamia, Deputy Superintendent Kaltenecker, Assistant Superintendent Cunningham, members of the Board of Education, Principal Walsh, parents, students, faculty, community members, and most importantly, the graduating science research class of 2019. As we congregate here tonight as a science research community, we proudly celebrate our hardworking student researchers. Tonight, each of our 27 seniors will be presenting a completed individual research project, each the product of hundreds of hours of determination, perseverance, and outstanding scientific inquiry. Additionally, our sophomores and juniors will share their explorations within their fields of interest.
For this symposium, we selected the theme of shattering expectations to encapsulate the extraordinary accomplishments of the people sitting in this auditorium. I remember attending Symposium as a freshman. I was blown away by the work being done. I thought there was no way that a high school student could do research at that caliber I was seeing. At the end of my sophomore year, I surprised myself with a review guide I thought I could never have written, then watched as one by one, my peers and I reached out to mentors who were so impressed by our work, they allowed us to work in their labs. Again, another amazing achievement. Then, this year, I watched as seniors brought home titles and awards again and again and again. And once more, my expectations were shattered. The power of science has the ability to surprise us. The science that we take for granted today was forged over the course of history through the repeated breaking of barriers by those who were able to look past the expectations of their time. Our seniors this year followed in their footsteps, whether it was doing what seemed impossible by inducing human photosynthesis, mapping the presence of otters with eDNA, or treating cancer with targeted nanoparticles. The work of the young scientists in this room has truly shattered all of our expectations.
Each year, we proudly recognize fellow researchers who have shattered expectations before us. What better inspiration than this year's keynote speaker, Mr. Eli Kosminsky, a member of the graduating class of 2009. We are especially honored that Eli has joined us tonight. At this time, we would like to thank all of our mentors, alumni, and parents for their overwhelming and instrumental support. In addition, we must acknowledge our teachers who continually stand by our side, encouraging us to work beyond what we think is even possible. And now, to start off our evening, we would like to introduce someone who is no stranger to the field of science. He arrived at Byram Hills High School 16 years ago as a ninth grade Earth Science teacher. He is always excited to learn about the progress of the science research program, encouraging all the students along the way. It is our privilege to introduce our principal at Byram Hills High School, Mr. Christopher Walsh.
Congratulations. I would like to start by welcoming tonight with us a very special guest who is here for the 30th consecutive Science Symposium. Mr. Vince Greco, here with us in the second row, was a board member when the program was approved by the Board of Education 30 years ago. Now, the story is one that's been told many times, but it's worth sharing here again tonight. After debating the pros and cons of the program and whether it should be established or not here at Byram Hills, it was put to a vote at the Board of Education. And that vote passed by one vote. There was one deciding vote. And thankfully, Mr. Greco was one of the members who voted in favor of creating the program. And since that time, he has been the only person who has attended every single science research symposium since it started. So, welcome back, Mr. Greco. So thank you for having that vision and the courage to approve the program, and thank you to our current Board of Education and the community for their continued support of this tremendous program. Now, the symposium in many ways for me can be seen as the yearly physical of the program, and I'm happy to report that it's thriving. It's incredible, really incredible the accolades that have been bestowed upon our students this year. Not only been recognized locally, but nationally and internationally as well. Not only with just other students, but with scientists in different fields who are doing it for their livelihood. It really stands up with the work that's being done throughout the scientific community. And it makes me very proud as the principal to hear all of those achievements that come in, it seemed this year on a weekly basis. 2 years ago, Ms. Stephanie Greenwald sat in my office with a look of, probably I could describe it as terror on her face when I asked her to take over the program. It wasn't that she couldn't do the job, we all knew that she could, it was that I think she really understood the monumental responsibility of what she would be taking on. And she took it that seriously. Now, 2 years out, we could not be happier with where she has led this program. And we know that we wouldn't have been able to get here without her. With Dr. Matthew, Ms. Salomone, and Ms. Santini by her side, and Ms. Deb Kay overseeing it, the program has never been healthier. Thank you. So this annual Rite of Spring at Byron Hills High School reminds us that our students have once again added to the collective knowledge of humanity. Something really impressive, that they are leaving behind a legacy that forwards the entire human race. Although it's the end of their 3-year journey in the program, it marks the beginning of the next phase of their academic careers. It also marks the beginning of the process for our aspiring science research freshmen. They will see the outcome of 3 years of dedicated work and commitment to a research topic. They will see that in addition to becoming an expert in a field of study, they're also going to be picking up many other skills along the way that cannot be assessed with traditional measures or through awards. Public speaking, teamwork, communication, leadership, and adaptability are but a few of the skills that have been developed, nurtured, and honed within the program. In many ways, the development of those skills are the greatest gifts that students receive from the program. They have developed skills that are transferable to all aspects of life. This symposium connects our current science research program and students to all of those who have come before them. And I am thrilled to welcome back Mr. Eli Kosminsky this evening. Welcome back. As a member of the class of 2009, he presented his research on economic theories within the World of Warcraft video game to the entire faculty during his senior year. And as a member of the faculty at the time, I thought, what a great and smart idea to be able to call playing video games research. And this kid really must have it figured out. So although there have been many changes to the high school and to the program since he graduated, the core of values remain unchanged. Another consistent thread that runs throughout the history of the program has been the support from those of you in the audience. And I know that every time we have another symposium and we have our students standing up here on stage, that they are supported and they are held up because of your dedication to them in the background. None of their accomplishments would have been possible without that encouragement, support, and sacrifice that you made. And we thank you for it. So every year I'm amazed and humbled by the incredible work of our students. I always make it my goal to be able to pronounce at least one of their research topics. And I hope you are just as amazed and inspired by them as I am. And welcome to Byron Hills High School.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Seniors, may I ask you to please take your seats in the auditorium? At this point in the evening, it gives me great pleasure to introduce tonight's keynote speaker. Eli Kosminsky graduated from Byron Hills High School 10 years ago in the class of 2009. He was a part of our very own science research program, where he discovered his passion for science through his unique study of the economics of the video game World of Warcraft.
He was also an Intel semifinalist, or what is now known as a top scholar. Little did he know at the time that his science research project would later influence his college and future career path. Eli went on to graduate from MIT, where he majored in computer science and minored in education. It was there that he further explored the power of computer games by working at the MIT Education Arcade. He focused on creating playful, powerful learning experiences using new educational technologies. At university, Eli also ended up writing a chapter for the book World of Warcraft and Philosophy, based on his high school science research topic. This experience helped him to earn his first internship working on the economics of a Facebook game. Currently, Eli is an educational game designer and developer for the Concord Consortium, where he continues to make educational games and simulations, including a genetics game about breeding dragons. Presently living in San Francisco, he is also one half of Room and Board Games, a small board game publisher that launched in 2017 on Kickstarter with Ursa Minor, a game about bears mining honey. In collaboration with the California College of the Arts, he is also developing In It Together, a climate change game about equitable solutions to sea level rise in East Oakland. We are proud and excited to have a former science research student return as the keynote speaker this year. Without further ado, please help in welcoming Eli Kosminsky.
Hi, I'm Eli Kosminsky. I'm the World of Warcraft guy. And today I'm going to be talking about, what I want to do is thank Mrs. Greenwald for inviting me back to speak at the Science Research Symposium on its 30th anniversary. It is a huge honor, especially seeing as this is the 10th year since I graduated from the program. I especially appreciate her inviting me out because the first thing that she said when she asked me to do this was, I have just the right amount of anxiety about asking you to stand in front of an audience of people and give you free rein over a microphone. And I think that by the end of the talk, you'll see why she thought that, but it's all good. So before we get to that, let me just, again, I'm going to be recapping some things here, but just talk a little bit about who I am. So the first thing is that my day job is I'm a software developer for the Concord Consortium. It's an educational nonprofit. We make educational games and simulations and modeling tools for K-12 STEM education. This is a picture of Geneventure. It's our dragon genetics game. But my day job is only a small part of what I do. I'm also a tangible interface designer. This is a picture of a place called Dynamic Land, where using paper and projections and light mapping technologies, you can create computational programs that you can stick on the wall and hold in your hand. It's all very cool stuff. My favorite thing about me is that I am a board game designer. I make board games. This is my first game that I published in 2017, Ursa Minor. It's a pun. Thank you. We sold 1,000 copies of that on Kickstarter. That's been played across the world, which is exciting. And since publishing that, my friend and I have been focusing more on making educational games and games that focus on questions of equity. So, as was mentioned, I'm working with a professor at the California College of Arts on In It Together, which is a collaborative game about equitable solutions to climate change and resilient solutions to climate change in East Oakland. And I'm also working with a professor of Afrofuturism at Cal State East Bay on a game called Afro Rhythms from the Future, which is a storytelling game telling stories from minority perspectives. So those are some things about me, but the most important fact about me tonight is that I'm a graduate of the Science Research Program. This is me. This is me as Lord Licorice from Candyland on Homecoming. I'm sure there was a good reason for this with Mr. Keith, who was my science research teacher at the time. And science research did have a big impact on my life, and that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight, is how it's guided what I've done with my career and with my hobbies, and what I think about that. So, as was mentioned, this is what I studied for science research, it was World of Warcraft. And yes, it was a convenient excuse to play a lot of World of Warcraft. And it was also something I was really interested in. So World of Warcraft is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game where millions of players together work together, talk together to build and create and kill large dragons sometimes. It's funny because coming back, everybody's talking about how strange it was that I studied World of Warcraft. And it was strange, and it is strange. It's funny because now that's such a part of my life that I just think of it as normal. So it's kind of good to come back and reflect on it. So there were a number of things I was interested in World of Warcraft from very early on. And I know this because I dug through a box and I found my original science research notebook. And I looked here on the fourth page, so this was like 1 month into the program, and I can see that I was very excited about Constance Steinkühler, who became my mentor. I was excited about online games as learning environments, which is what I do now, and I was excited about video game economics, which is what my science research project was about. So I won't talk too much about it, but briefly what I did was look at auctions sales in World of Warcraft and compare the World of Warcraft economy, which is gigantic and sprawling, to a real-world economy and see if it held up to some different tests that we would expect to see in a perfect economy, which we can't have in the real world, but all of economics is based on it. It was pretty fun. I give a lot of credit to Mrs. Greenwald for sticking with me through this entire process. It was not clear that there was a full science research project to do in World of Warcraft, but we found one. And it worked out okay. I was an Intel semifinalist, or whatever it's called now. I wrote, as was mentioned, a chapter in World of Warcraft and philosophy. I actually wrote that when I was still in high school. When they messaged me that they were going to publish it, they were like, "What do you do at the high school? Are you a teacher?" And I was like, "No." So I said that I was an MIT in my biography, but I wasn't actually yet. I also got my work published in the Journal of Virtual Worlds Research. I Google it from time to time. When I Googled it for this presentation, I realized it had been cited by 9 people, which I think is sort of hilarious because they probably don't know it was written by a high schooler. And the other thing to come out of it was my Dr. Robert Pavlika Memorial Award, which I also found in the same box as my lab notebook. And I won that award with one of Dr. Pavlika's quotes, "You can't dance someone else's dance." And I think it's pretty clear how that applies to what I did, what I do. I researched some strange things, and things that other people don't get to do. So I feel like I've kept that sort of spirit alive throughout the rest of my career, and I'll talk a little bit about that now. Is there anything else I want to say? I don't think so. This was the first job that I had in college. I was like, I have a background in economics and video games, so I'm going to make the economy of a Facebook game. And so I went to this company, we made Zoo Kingdom. You made a zoo, it was pretty straightforward. It was around the Farmville time, so this was hot. And I studied the way economies worked in these different Facebook games. I studied the economy in here. And eventually I realized that I hated it. Making these games was mostly about addicting users and not bringing them enjoyment, which was what I wanted to do, so I gave up on economics. And I went back to the other thing that I was interested in, which was education. My freshman summer at MIT, I had time at the MIT Education Arcade, which at the time was part of the MIT Media Lab, and I worked on an introductory programming language for students. Basically introducing middle school, high schoolers to programming. It was this blocks-based programming language called StarLogo. You connect these Lego-like blocks together to create code that runs in this 3D environment, and it's a good tool for teaching. I had so much fun at the Education Arcade that I took education classes at MIT, eventually getting my minor in education and completing my practicum. So I was one test that I accidentally mistook away from getting my certification to teach high school math. And on top of that, one of my education classes, I don't think I ever mentioned this to Mrs. Greenwald, but we had a guest lecture from Constance Steinkuhler. Yes, who was she was my mentor, and involved in education in online games. So it has stayed pretty consistent since I graduated. Once I graduated, my life took a weird turn. I was a computer scientist, and I figured that what a computer scientist does is they get a job that pays good money, and that's what they do with their life. And that's what I did. And this probably was not dancing my own dance, but it is what I did. I worked for Rapid7, which was a network security company. It was mostly watching the network activity of employees without them knowing, which I didn't really enjoy either. But did learn some fun things about my coworkers. So eventually, I kept working at Rapid7, but I decided to go down to 80% time, which is a thing you can do if they want you to keep working there. And I focused instead on something which was becoming a growing hobby of mine, which was making board games. I was getting very involved in the Boston game design scene. I was running the Boston Game Makers Guild, which is the largest group of game designers in Boston. And I was running the Boston Festival of Indie Games, which is the largest celebration of independent games in New England. And I wanted to have more time to do that, so I just did, even though that was probably also doing my own dance of just deciding to leave, to do things that didn't pay me any money, but that I enjoyed. And eventually, I decided that I was so done with network security that I left. I just went back to MIT, to the same lab where I worked as an undergrad, and I worked for a few years there, not a few years, a few months actually, on curriculum for students in India, also K-12 STEM curriculum. Then I moved back out to California, and that sort of traces my life to being a software developer who works in educational nonprofits and makes games about equity. So that's a little bit of my story. I feel like I got to dance my own dance, which was a lucky thing to be able to do. I ended up in a weird place. Most people in my position, a software engineer out in California, work at a startup, and they make money, and then they go home, and I don't know what else they do with their life, but not what I do. And so I want to spend the rest of my time talking about dancing your own dance. The first thing that I want to say is that it's hard. Even just coming back here today, a lot of people told me what they first thought when I told them that I was doing World of Warcraft, and they thought that it was mostly nonsense. And it's hard to keep doing the things that you care about when people don't think they're real, but if you surround yourself with people who believe in you, and if you believe in you, then it's doable. It's also hard to ask for help. It's never clear who you should talk to when you're doing something strange, but that's why it's good to find good mentors also. I also think it's awesome. I make far less money than any of my colleagues or my peers or friends do. I took an 80% salary cut going from for-profit to non-profit, but I am much happier than them in general. And I also think that it is the essence, dancing your own dance, of shattering expectations. I'm really proud of all of the seniors here tonight for shattering expectations of what people thought was possible and bringing home awards. I think it's also, that's like maybe exceeding expectations also. When I talk about shattering expectations, I'm talking about like holding them and then smashing them on the ground. Because expectations can be a bad thing. Expectations make you feel like you should do things, or like you have to do things, which to me makes it feel like we don't have choices in our lives. And I don't think that's true. I think that there's really nothing that we have to do. We don't have to go to college. We don't have to get jobs. We don't have to grow up, we don't have to get married, we don't have to have kids, we don't have to sit in this auditorium if we don't want to. There's any number of things that we really don't have to do. We get to make our own choices. And I say all of this because it's related to dancing your own dance, and I also say it with two caveats. There are still consequences for your actions. If you don't go to college, it will be harder to get certain jobs. If you don't listen to your parents, they may punish you. If you don't treat people with respect and compassion, then you might hurt them, and you will have to live with that. So, dancing your own dance doesn't mean that you're doing something you are loving and excited about 24/7, but it does mean that you're doing everything because you choose to, not because you have to. And my other caveat that I want to make here is that I don't know if I know what I'm talking about. I am a 28-year-old person who's standing here. I am also a person who is coming from a lot of privilege, which makes it a lot easier for me to dance my own dance. When I think about privilege, I usually think about it like this. Oh no, that's spoiling. Okay. I think this is called a privilege flower, and it's just a number of different categories where you can have privilege, where there may be barriers for some people that are not barriers for you. And just over the weekend, I don't know that you can really score yourself on one of these, but I tried to anyway. And I have a lot of privilege. I am a straight white man with a good education who lives in one of the biggest cities in the country. I am pretty wealthy, all things considered. I come from a wealthy background to the extent that I have a financial safety net. I can drop to 80% time, and I can work in a nonprofit without worrying that I'm going to go bankrupt. I can decide to go back to MIT and work if I want to because I have good connections there. These things make it comparatively easy for me to dance my own dance. And that's not a bad thing. I don't feel guilty about it. There's nothing wrong with having privilege. It's just something that I keep in mind, and it's something that inspires me to do what I do. Because there have been a lot of barriers that I've not had to confront in dancing my own dance. And basically, I want to help other people do the same thing. What I want, and why I work in education and make equitable games, is because I want people who are historically oppressed, who have to confront more of these barriers, to be able to dance their own dance. Because I want to see more people dancing, and I want to see new weird dances. And I hope that I've made it clear that I would never tell anybody in this audience what to do, because there's nothing you have to do. But I hope that you will permit me, at least, to advocate for doing the same, and using the privilege and the power that you have to help out people who don't have those same privileges and powers. So with that, I will leave you with this image of a 16-year-old Eli dancing his own dance. Thank you very much for having me here tonight.
Thank you, Eli. At this moment, we would like to acknowledge a special moment for the Science Research Program. This is our 30th annual symposium. Over the years, the program has grown and changed, but one thing has remained a constant. As Principal Walsh mentioned, Mr. Vincent Greco has attended each and every one of our symposia since the first one in 1990. Actually, we can credit Mr. Greco with the fact that we have a symposium, really a science research program at all. When the Board of Education was voting to approve the creation of our program, opinions were divided. Mr. Greco was there to cast the deciding vote. Since then, he has been a regular visitor to our classroom, keenly interested in our students' progress and cheering on their successes. We would like to thank him and recognize his cherished support tonight. Mr. Greco, please come up and receive the token of our gratitude and affection.
At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce one senior who will share his thoughts with you this evening. Upon first meeting Renner quickly, I did not know that he was in the science research program. Frankly, I don't think I knew what the science research program was at all. As time passed, however, I learned more and more about his work. He even showed me pictures of mice that he had worked with at the lab over the summer of his junior year. If I remember correctly, he had prefaced the images by asking me if I had wanted to see something gross. Needless to say, his work became more real and tangible than ever before, and I grew excited for what the future would bring, be it the final stages of Renner's work or the upcoming beginnings of my own. Though I was never in his class, it is easy to see the lasting impact that Renner has had on his peers. He is funny, kind, and hardworking. He is the kind of person that makes public speaking look like a breeze, as though you were born to entertain crowds. To put it simply, he is the kind of person the science research program is meant for. Someone with drive and conviction who inspires his peers to be and do better. Without further ado, I am happy to introduce Renner Quicken for senior remarks.
Before I begin, I'd like to thank just so many people that have made me get to the position that I am in right now. Most especially my parents, my mentors, but also I'd like to thank my teachers, Ms. Greenwald, Dr. Matthew, Ms. Salomon, Ms. Santini, and Mr. Gulick. I also promised Ms. Greenwald and Dr. Matthew that I'll watch my language and stay on script, and I'll try my best, but we'll see. I really do want to emphasize just how monumental this year's group of seniors were. It's not normal how many awards and recognitions we brought in, and it isn't just among 1 or 2 students. We have 7 Regeneron semifinalists, 1 Regeneron finalist, 2 neuroscience finalists, 2 national JSHS participants, 3 ISEP finalists, and 1 Google Science Fair Global finalist. And honestly, I want to give them a round of applause because they're amazing. Previous years and juniors, listen up, don't even come close to the success our year has brought. The word that truly defines our year is successful. But success is a funny thing in science. Success it's kind of BS. When we present, our presentations end with future research limitations. It never ends with how perfect our research was. And I was at a seminar recently, and one of the panelists paraphrased that science is being at the forefront of ignorance. And nothing could be more true. So then why is our class one of, if not the most successful, graduating classes of ASR students? It's because we're one of the biggest failures. Looking at all of our seniors that are sitting down that they were on stage, all I see are massive failures, every single one of them. Especially Alan. He has to be a We're only successful because we're allowed to fail, and often miserably. We're successful because we acknowledge that we don't know a single thing. The one thing that we do know is that we don't know enough. So after calling all my peers failures on stage in front of their loved ones, it's only fair that I tell my own story of failure. And I remember sitting with freshmen as an audience, and even shorter freshmen, and imagining what exactly it's like to go into a lab and conduct real scientific research. I imagined pristine white walls and busy lab coats filled with sharp yet humble scientists. But when I arrived in my lab at Johns Hopkins University, I was dead wrong. I was expecting that warm, fuzzy mentor that would hold my hand and show me how to do real research, but I got a real human being instead. And and the real story I want to tell is the tale of 21 mice. Thank you. My mentor had asked me to develop my own novel nanoparticle compound for imaging, and when I asked her how, she responded with use materials in the lab and get out of her office. So I had 10 weeks in the lab to not only test my hypothesis, but also now develop my own chemotherapeutic drug that I didn't know how to even design it or synthesize it. So I thought immediately that, how am I going to do any of this? I thought I would fail and I wouldn't be able to test my original hypothesis. So I worked tirelessly, and for one of many intense weeks, I would go in around 9 a.m. and not leave till around 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or even later. Often I'd be the one turning off the lights in the lab at night, and my mentor had no idea how late I was staying. When she found out, she got very upset with me, and affectionately told me in her thick Indian accent that Baltimore isn't safe for little boys at night. But I ended up doing it anyway. I created my first novel nanoparticle compound. I named it Compound 1 because I'm creative. And the next step was to learn how to actually inject mice with tumors and then with my drug afterwards. So I got certified in animal handling, which was a joke. And then I asked my mentor if and where I could practice injections. A lab technician came in, gave me a box of mice that were anesthetized and bound to be euthanized, a syringe filled with human prostate cancer that we bought online, and pointed to her armpit, and in her thick Russian accent, she said, "Practice here." And then she left the room. My first injection. I won't get into details, but I missed a lot. And when she came back and saw the panicked horror show that I created, she said, "No problem," sacrificed all the mice, and handed me another box, and then left again. So once my injection skills were perfected, I tested compound 1 on a single mouse. I asked my mentor what dosage I should use and when I should image the mouse post-injection. She responded in her infinite wisdom, "I don't know." So, in my infinite wisdom, I guessed. And with that one mouse, after I injected it, it was actually a success. I saw that the compound was going to the 2 tumors in the flanks with some systemic uptake, but that's not an issue. And so the next step was to do a pharmacokinetic study where I could perfect the optimal dosage as well as the optimal imaging time point using 20 mice. Now, mice and materials are very expensive, and at this point I already burned $40,000 of my mentor's grant money, so it better work, or I injected all my mice on a Friday morning, and I would start collecting data 2, 4, and 6 hours post-injection. So I did as any other scientist would do, I left and got lunch. And after I injected my mice, I was thinking that I really need every single one of my experiments to go well in order to test my hypothesis at the end of the year, because it's such a time crunch. I was way too ambitious in my research, but I really did want to get it done. And some of the more astute audience members might have noticed that I opened up with failure, but I've only been talking about how great I am. And when I went back to image my mice, I saw that almost none of them were moving or breathing. I'm glad you're laughing. The compound that I created and I developed brought almost all my mice to near death. And 3 weeks of some of the most intense work that I've done, and a third of my research projects was gone in a snap. It was an absolutely crushing failure. The only mice that were relatively okay were the injections that I botched. Less laughter there. And it's difficult to put into words how devastating this felt. I basically thought my project was done for. My mentors disappointed me. I thought my teachers would be disappointed in me in having a subpar research project. And most of all, I was disappointed in myself. My fellow peers know this feeling of failure. They've felt it all too often. They've felt it their sophomore or junior year, or in the lab, or the many competitions we've been to. I would still argue that it's this failure that has made us into the success stories that we are today. I allowed myself to feel sorry for one afternoon and one afternoon only. That weekend, I tried to understand why exactly everything went wrong. I called up other mentors and other PIs surrounding my lab. I talked to everyone I knew. I read countless articles. And I'll keep it brief, but over the rest of my time in the lab, I developed 2 other novel nanoparticle designs and tested my hypothesis. Not only did I develop a drug bound for human clinical trials in a couple of years, I also identified another compound to be a universal tool of making other nanoparticle designs viable for human clinical trials. What did any of that mean? Well, come to my presentation later and listen to me. I urge you to listen to all of our seniors present, and not only ask about their research, but ask about their journey and their failures. Every single senior has a unique and beautiful story, not only about their research, but what drove it. And to be successful in science, we have to be willing to fail. To be successful anywhere, this holds true. Stuart Firestein, hopefully I didn't botch your name, Department of Biological Science at Columbia, once said that there is no sure way to screw up an experiment than to be certain of its outcome. So I encourage not only the sophomores and juniors to embrace failure, but everyone, every so often, jump into it and make a complete fool of yourself. The person who's afraid of failure and becomes paralyzed by its consequences never learns. So without nearly murdering mice, I encourage you all to remember, the only thing that is keeping you from what you want is a story you tell yourself about why you don't deserve it.
Thank you, Renner. At this time, before we award our seniors their science research diplomas, let us relive one of the greatest triumphs of the class of 2019. It has become a tradition for our seniors to film themselves when they submit their Regeneron paper after their long, hard journey. Let's see what that looked like for some of our students.
So, ready to go. This is it. And that's it. Welcome. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Finally.
Submitted! Woo!
You've been in there for 3 years.
Come over here. I'm just about to submit my regeneron paper.
No way.
Oh my.
Yay!
I would now like to invite the seniors back up to the stage. It is now my pleasure to introduce Ms. Greenwald, Ms. Salomon, and Dr. Matthew to present the senior with some special awards.
Before we begin, there's something I've been wanting to do for the past few months, but I've been taught that it's polite to be humble and to avoid appearing braggadocious. However, given where we are right now, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, friends, colleagues, and fans of our program, 27 Regeneron entrants, 7 top scholars, 1 Regeneron finalist, 7th in the nation, 2 neuroscience finalists, 1 child mind rising scientist, 1 presenter at the American Astronomical Society, 1 Humanities finalist, 3 Somer Science Fair Award winners, 13 JSHS Award recipients, 3 JSHS New York State presenters, and 3 poster presenters, 2 JSHS National presenters, 32 WESF Award recipients, 3 NICEF presenters, 3 ICEF presenters with 2 ICEF Award winners, 5 Reporter Science Excellent winners, 2 published authors, 1 patent pending, and 1 Google Science Fair finalist. That feels really good. Before we begin this, now I imagine how challenging it is this year to select students to give our awards to. You're all deserving of the praise and recognition. In fact, given the nature of this year's class, we found it impossible to choose one recipient for the Excellence in Science Research Award, so we're giving 2. But first, Mrs. Salomon will announce the Dr. Pavlika Award.
Our first award is given in honor of Dr. Robert Pavlika, who had an impressive vision when he created this program 30 years ago. He wanted to provide an opportunity for great young minds to explore complex questions in an environment where they could collaborate with professionals in the scientific community and with each other. The students who would be drawn to this program would not only possess great aptitude, but they would desire to be a part of the authentic science research community. They would work together, support each other, and embolden each other to take on challenges and risks. We are proud of the many science research students this year who have honored the spirit of collaboration envisioned by Dr. Pavlika 3 decades ago. There is one student, however, who not only reflects the intellectual capacity of a successful student researcher, but also embodies the type of altruism and dedication to her peers that would have made Dr. Pavlika proud. This is a student who faced her fair share of adversity in the program. She lost her mentor during her junior year and had to scramble to get a new one. Scrambling in science research means reading complex journal articles at a rapid pace, writing multiple letters to multiple researchers, and keeping a very open mind about the parameters of your topic. For this young researcher, it meant becoming increasingly fluent in the study of immunotherapy, learning about the promise of chimeric antigen receptor T cells and bispecific T cell engagers in targeting thyroid cancer cells. This story has a happy ending. With the support of her new mentor, the student successfully created an immunotherapy construct that recruited T cells to thyroid cancer cells to destroy them. Her work would be recognized at the County Junior Science and Humanities Symposium, and she would join an elite group to present in Albany. And in fact, tomorrow evening, as a recipient of the Accorda Scientific Excellence Award, she will continue to share her research with the public in the form of a radio interview. Every year when we bestow the Pavlika Award to a senior, we choose a quote to exemplify the recipient. This tradition is a nod to Dr. Pavlika, who frequently shared inspiring quotes with his students. The novelist Philip Pullman once said, True education flowers at the point when delight falls in love with responsibility. We all know the importance of responsibility in academics, but I want to focus now on delight, on joy. We have selected this student for the Dr. Pavlika Award in part because of her joyful, supportive presence in the classroom. A true team player, she delighted in helping others, especially when they were facing the challenges she knew well. She celebrated the successes of others and was a vital part of a supportive classroom community. She even co-authored and self-published a classroom book for other science research students. The subject, What to Do If You Lose Your Mentor. She is the embodiment of a positive attitude and a collaborative spirit, and we can think of no better recipient for the Dr. Pavlika Memorial Award than Elise Hanna.
The first student to receive the Excellence in Science Award is certainly worthy of it because he has grit. Dr. Angela Duckworth, the University of Pennsylvania researcher, determined the 5 main characteristics of those with grit to be courage, conscientiousness, perseverance, resilience, and passion. This young man truly displays all of this and more. I'm honored to have witnessed his challenging journey, as it was not a simple process. First, he chose something courageous to study. From meeting to meeting, he eloquently taught me about his topic. No matter my questions, he had the answers, or he wouldn't rest until he found them. His perseverance was exemplary. Soon he found a mentor, and with complete freedom, he was the driver of his potential study. Yet with his independence came the daunting task of determining what untested objectives needed to be scrutinized. He struggled daily, reading complicated articles, trying to comprehend every single detail. His conscientiousness was inspiration. Finally, he made his proposal to his mentor and the grad student working with him. They confirmed his idea was indeed stupendous, and in fact, their lab was already studying something similar. However, his proposal would take years to conduct. They had a different plan. He would teach himself a new programming language in a matter of a few short weeks rather than the usual months. Luckily, he's resilient. So he spent the entire summer working not in a lab with cell cultures as he had originally anticipated, but huddled over a laptop, creating long lines of complex code. Returning in the fall, filled with passion, he shared his exciting findings. Utilizing machine learning approaches, he analyzed single-cell RNA sequencing data from cancer tumors and created a novel pipeline to describe large data sets in order to fundamentally explain cancer with a computer. He ultimately received recognition as a top scholar for Regeneron and was a co-author of a paper in the scholarly journal Cell Systems. Most importantly, his research lays the foundation to further elucidate the drivers of cancerous tumors and potentially may enhance the effectiveness of cancer immunotherapy and other treatments. I'm sure if Dr. Duckworth met this young man, she would agree he is the poster child for grit. However, there's one more finding of hers I've yet to mention. She found those who score higher on grit scales are motivated more by altruism than their own personal pleasure. I'm fascinated by this finding. See, one would think to have grit, you must be motivated to promote yourself and only your desires. Rather, those with grit work towards the greater good, so that everyone achieves in the long run. This year's recipient works tirelessly for the good of our entire science research program. He eagerly helps his fellow seniors, other students, his teachers, and me every single day, most often without being asked. All in all, he is one of the kindest and most generous students I've ever worked with. I can't imagine a science research room without him, but fortunately I plan on having him on speed dial, so I continue to ask him for help every single day. Thus, it gives me great honor and pride to announce this year's recipient of the Excellence of Science Research Award to the wonderful Alan Chang.
research is a course unlike any other. As such, we reflect each year with our students on how they should be graded. We often wish there were no grades at all, so that we could just focus on the science, but the system we came up with succinctly emphasizes what we value and hold dear. The list of expectations that hangs in our classroom is titled An Ideal Research Student. And this second recipient of the Excellence in Science Research Award is just that. Our chart is divided into 3 parts, the first being depth of knowledge. This student had not only mastered the most complex concepts in his field by the time I met him in junior year, he was able to teach them to me. Even gently assigned me homework when he thought I might like to read a few articles on my own to improve my understanding. His intellectual curiosity helped him to identify a potentially momentous gap in the literature, and he convinced his mentors to let him try to address it with his research project. The second quality is personal responsibility. This student is a leader in our program's community, always there to enthusiastically help, whether it be a fellow student or a teacher in need, and quick to raise a smile. He understands intuitively how to set a tone and inspire those around him to be their best. His organization and attention to detail make for excellent assignments, but also brilliant puzzles and brain teasers with which he would start off each class period. I greatly enjoyed the interplay between his maturity and his sense of the city. Finally, we value improvement, the continual act of reflection and persistence to fuel personal growth. This student would routinely go above and beyond what was expected from him. With 2 required summer check-ins during his research, I think I received 6, and I loved every one of them. Thoughtful and compassionate, he considers others in his choice of topic and in how he leads his class. And most of all, he is resilient, knowing how to turn the inevitable messiness and unpredictability of science into an impressive, award-winning paper. I am at once heartbroken and so happy to send him off into the world. His humanity and humility will serve him, and all those he encounters accurately as he embarks on this next chapter. In our science research yearbook, he was awarded, he doesn't know this yet, most likely to be a research teacher. I hope he does follow a future in science education, inspiring future generations to tackle the pressing problems of the world. I already called him Professor. It gives me such great pleasure to present the Excellence in Science Research Award to Jonas Schwab. And let's see if I can hold it together enough to do 2 of these in a row. Right, so, for next, the Ancient Science Research Award. Our final award is given each year to the senior who has demonstrated the creativity, resourcefulness, and persistence that elevates scientific research to an art. It's given in honor of the first science research student who came to Dr. Pavlika 30 years ago now, asking to do science. Abe Shaheen had taken every AP course that Byron Hills had to offer, but he still wanted more. The opportunity to stretch himself beyond the confines of a traditional classroom education. Ever since then, the Authentic Science Research Program has allowed our students to do just that, to find their passion, to step up to the challenges they set themselves, to create, and to do real science. And there has been a great deal of doing this year. But one student has particularly stood out, creatively, deliberately, and determinedly pushing the boundaries of knowledge. I am unexpectedly grateful to have never officially been the student's teacher. Although we never had a scheduled individual meeting, he would talk to me every day, walking excitedly up to my desk during my prep period, settling down to tell me about his latest article, email, concept, idea, or puzzle. I also gate-crashed most of his actual meetings with Mrs. Greenwald, for science was too grilling. I came along for the ride, as his mentor challenged him with a new topic, which of course he hated the idea of at first, and as he took over and made it his own. I feel fortunate to have accompanied him at least some of the way on his research journey, both literally and figuratively. I helped trawl journal archives to find copies of the many, many articles he found, joined in with dramatic readings of centuries-old papers that were still somehow topical for his study, admired the self-described angry rainbow that emphasized the key points in his emails to his rather unresponsive mentors, acknowledged the needs for all 10 of the exclamation points in his most momentous of emails, and traveled around the country with him to the most exciting of competitions. His work itself needs little introduction. With potential future applications that range from band-aids to space travel, and a patent application already filed, this student really has pushed at those boundaries of knowledge and pushed at them hard. He's impressed all those he's spoken to about his work, from our faculty to radio hosts to innumerable judges. This student gave me my first taste of what a Byram Hills science research poster was like as I came to interview here almost exactly 2 years ago. He was as inspirational then as he is now. It's been a privilege to work alongside him, watching him do his thing, and it's with great pleasure that I present the Dave Shaheen Science Research Award to Greg Palmer.
Now, the moment we have been waiting for. We will introduce each of our seniors so they may receive their science research diplomas. As has become a tradition during this ceremony, it is time to look back on where this all began.
As a freshman, each senior submitted an application to our program. We have revisited their applications and excerpted a quote that we think perhaps might represent who they are. Let's see if you agree.
outstanding, authentic